morning, everyone. We're just going to give everyone who is just joining at the last minute just a moment or two to get joined in, and as soon as everyone gets settled, we will get started with the presentation. Good morning. My name is Peter Walsh, and I am the IoT Practice Manager and the Senior Network Engineer here at IntegraONE. As you may already be aware, IntegraONE has been serving the region for over 2.5 decades, providing IT services to many local government entities, including network infrastructure, data center, security, voice over IP, and recently we've started up our Internet of Things practice, which is what I am here to talk to you about today. We'll start by giving you a brief overview of where we are now and where we came from in terms of the network, and then talk about how the sky's the limit when it comes to an IoT solution. After that, we will discuss some of the resources required and how IntegraONE can help you develop, plan for, and implement an IoT solution. At the end of the presentation, pending time allowance, we'll be going over any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions, please post them in the questions window, and we'll be going over those at the end. So just for a second, I would like you to think about where your networks have evolved from in the last few years. Not too long ago, most of our networks consisted of computers, printers, and the occasional IP phone deployment. Less than 15 years ago, YouTube didn't exist. Social media was a term that most people had never heard of. Smartphones, as we know them, were non-existent, and wireless networks were really just a novelty. What this meant was that the infrastructure of the past was relatively fine with the amount of traffic that was on it. Now, if you think about today and how that's a completely different story, right now the technology that we have is unparalleled. I can check to see if my garage door is open, and if it is, I can close it from anywhere in the world. If someone comes to my front door, I can be notified on my phone. And if it's someone I know, I can even unlock that door remotely for them and let them in. My refrigerator can give me a glimpse of what's inside without even opening the door. And using a simple voice command, I can have Alexa dim the lights, turn on my smart TV, and start playing my favorite TV show at my preferred volume. So does this sound familiar to you? Are some or all of these things technologies that you've either heard of or are using already in your personal life? Well, guess what? Whether you realize it or not, you're already part of the Internet of Things. I'd like you to take note of this bubble for a second. This bubble represents 1 billion, with a B, network connected devices. So keeping that in mind, as of late 2017, there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 billion devices on our networks globally. To put that another way, for every person on Earth, that's 2 devices. So 15 billion in 2017. And by the year 2020, which is just under 2 years from now, it's estimated that there will be up to 200 billion devices on our networks. Anything that you can think of will become a network connected sensor. Road signs, roadways, chairs, doors, refrigerators, doorbells, etc. The number is not going to slow down, and in fact, it's going to grow exponentially. And by the year 2025, who knows how many devices will be out there on the networks. So what I'm getting at here is You may be fine now, but for how long? The IoT storm is just around the corner and it's not slowing down. So let's talk about some solution examples from a high level. In our first example, I'm going to talk about smart buildings. So I do have a small trivia question here to see if everyone's paying attention. If anyone can identify this building, please go ahead and post in the comments and I'll reveal the answer towards the end of the presentation. In our smart building example, we're going to talk about a few systems that your buildings have now, but are either not connected to the network or are disconnected from each other. We'll combine three, but you could add many more systems to this. So for this example, let's combine your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, otherwise known as HVAC, your lighting systems, and your window coverings. In the smart building, you would have various sensors throughout, including ambient light sensors and temperature sensors, both inside and outside of your building. The system would be smart enough to know that on a very cold day in February, if it's extremely sunny outside, unlike today, that the system would open up the blinds to let the natural light and therefore radiant heat into the building. Light sensors inside the building would tell the LED light fixtures to dim down and save power. The temperature sensors for the HVAC system would then tell the system to work more efficiently. So what this means for you is that you could reduce your energy consumption and therefore lower your energy bills, have a better interior comfort, and more efficient light usage, and an overall gain in building efficiency. In our next example, I want to talk to you about smart parking. Something that is very frustrating for city planners, people who are visiting a city, or even people who go there on a regular basis is parking. Whether it's finding a good spot, being able to easily pay for that spot without having to go back to your car every 2 hours, or knowing what spots are being used while others are vacant may be a complete mystery to you. So what we'd like to do is make your spots smart spots. Give them sensors and variable data like location, cost, etc. Then take this parking data and send it to a centralized dashboard that could be distributed to city planners as well as visitors via a mobile app. Think about if you could drive into the city on your morning commute and your parking app could have your preferences, such as you would like a covered parking spot that's an end spot in a self parking lot known, and then the app would direct you to the closest spot that's available to your destination. Wouldn't that make your morning commute just that much less stressful? This could be achieved by having sensors at each of your parking spots, which could tell if the spot is vacant or not. That data would be pushed to a central server, and each of the spots would be cataloged with items such as the cost for the parking spot, the location, whether it's a valet or a self spot, a covered or a street parking spot, etc. This could then be pushed to your users via a mobile app, which, by the way, they could also use to pay for their parking and avoid parking tickets. Meter maids would be reduced and almost non-existent because the system could tell you if the spot is occupied and not paid for, therefore allowing you to utilize your resources and send them to where they're needed rather than walking around the city trying to find parking violators. In the last example here, I would like to talk about smart roadways for safety and efficiency throughout your city. How can roadways be made more efficient and safer? It starts with the data. What we would do is combine smart signals containing sensors giving you data about traffic flow, road sensors give you data about road conditions such as temperature, accumulation of snow or ice, etc., and historical data that these sensors can provide, all sent to a centralized dashboard. All of this data that's acquired can be used for multiple purposes. Think about the traffic signals themselves talking to each other and opening up traffic flow for smoother throughput throughout the city. What about in wintertime? Your road maintenance crews could have real-time data about where they need to pre-treat the roads or where ice may have formed already. Emergency response vehicles could also be connected to these lights to aid in incident response. So these examples that I provided are just the tip of the iceberg as far as what's possible. In my opinion, one of the greatest aspects about this is that there is no need to wait to get started. Most of what would be needed to implement these solutions already exists, or if it does not, will exist in only a matter of time. So what would be some of the resources required for you to implement an IoT solution? Well, for starters, having your team work with the IntegraONE team. We would brainstorm with you to discuss some of your long-term goals and generate some ideas of how we can make that happen and get you there. As these solutions are not off-the-shelf type of solutions, they definitely would take some time and energy to come up with and complete. While IoT itself may be a new practice for IntegraONE as well as the rest of the industry, the groundwork is not. Since 1990, when IntegraONE was founded, we have been providing the region with a full spectrum of technology services geared towards a wide range of commercial, government, and educational entities. Our expertise in these areas is crucial to an IoT deployment. That being said, how can we as IntegraONE really help you? The technology services that we already offer are an important first step in the groundwork to implement a successful IoT deployment. You must make sure that the base is strong before building out. We can analyze your wireless and wired networks with load and spectrum analysis to make sure that your infrastructure has the throughput that's required. Do you have enough coverage and capacity? We can verify that your wireless networks are covering the areas that you want to include. What about PoE switching? Many of these new sensors will require power over Ethernet, and you might not have the capacity. Let's help you build that out and plan for your deployment. Data center capacity will also play a crucial role. We can help you build out your DCs to have the computing power required. And last but not least is one of the most important factors, network security. Network access and guest access as well. Any strong IoT solution absolutely depends on having a strong and secure network. So in summary, you may be fine now, but you'll want to make sure that you're prepared because the IoT storm is coming. You can get started now and we can help you with your ideas and your imagination to be your partner on your path to success. As I said in the beginning, the sky is the limit. Where you choose to go from here is up to you. And if you'd like us to help you get you there, please let us know so that we can schedule a follow-up meeting with you. So at this point, I'm going to start going over some of the questions that have popped up in the webinar here. But first, I want to just kind of review the answer on the question that I had asked earlier about the building in the smart building example. That is the Centre Pompidou in France, which is the National Museum of Modern Art, and it's built in a high-tech design, which is one of the reasons that I had chosen that building for the example on the smart buildings. All right, so going over some of the questions here. Question that popped up is, we don't have IoT in our budget right now, and how can we get started? So one of the key things, as I mentioned, is the foundation. You need a strong base before you can implement a real successful IoT solution. And by adjusting your budget to increase your infrastructure base and make sure that you have enough switching, enough wireless, enough security, you can get that into your budget now and then start planning for ideas of goals that you want to accomplish. So if you want to implement a smart building example and get your buildings green, you can get that started with the infrastructure, and then as the infrastructure is there, get the other projects that you want onto your budget. What about grants? Are there any type of grants to assist in these type of deployments? The answer is yes. There are many grants that are publicly available to aid in the initiation of smart city, smart building, and green projects. And corporations like Cisco have even dedicated personnel finding these grants and helping our customers get applied to them. And the last question that had popped up is about timetable. What kind of timetable would it take to implement one of these IoT solutions? So that's kind of a tricky question because it really depends on what you're looking to achieve. So it's very variable. So depending on if you're doing a small scale smart building type of project versus a full city, the timetable would definitely vary greatly depending on the project. So once again, these are off the shelf, not off the shelf type of solutions. So they also take a little bit more customization, and therefore they're going to run a little bit longer than a normal project. So the best way to get a good answer on that would be talk with your sales personnel so that we could start the initial discussions with you as far as what kind of project you're looking to do and how long that project would take to accomplish. Okay, so that's about it for the questions. I have one last bit of housekeeping to go over, and later after the webinar today, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with a survey. Please don't forget to take that post-webinar survey and go ahead and submit that. And with that being said, I would like to thank everyone for their attendance on this webinar today. If you have any other further questions, please don't hesitate to send them in. Once again, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.